I didn't cry when I opened the wedding invitation and saw that my name wasn't on it. I just sat there at the kitchen table, holding the heavy cream cardstock in my grease-stained hands, reading it over and over like maybe, just maybe, I missed something. But I hadn't. It was addressed to Ms. Helen Moreno and guest. Helen is my ex-wife. Has been for 17 years. Guest could be anyone. I guess that made me no one. It was a Thursday evening. Still had my shop boots on, still smelled like brake fluid and heat from a long day under hoods. I'd just come home, hoping to catch a hot shower before the game. Instead, I got a letter from my only son, inviting everyone but me to the biggest day of his life. I stared at the RSVP card, the little line for dietary preferences, the fancy pre-stamped envelope. The whole thing screamed curated, planned, intentionally filtered, like a Pinterest board brought to life. I called him, no answer. I texted, got the invite, can we talk? He wrote back, hey Dad, sorry, just swamped, can you text instead? So I did. I asked him straight up, am I not invited? Took him 3 hours to respond. When he did, it was a goddamn paragraph. Polite, diplomatic, bullshit. He wrote, of course you're invited, but it's a small ceremony. Elena's family is handling the guest list. We're doing things a bit differently. Very minimal. Very modern. It's more about the couple than the crowd, you know? Hope you understand. Hope I understand. I helped that boy pay for college. Covered the last 2 semesters when his scholarship ran out. I signed the damn loan he used for his MBA. I drove 4 hours to help him move into his new apartment when his back went out. Paid the first month's rent when the job offer got delayed. But I wasn't on the list. I sat in that kitchen with the fridge humming behind me, the same old busted light flickering overhead, and I felt something twist deep in my chest. Not just sadness, not just anger. Something older, like being told you don't belong here by someone you built your whole life around. You want to know the part that really stung? The next day, I logged into Facebook. First post on my feed, a photo of him and Elena at some engagement brunch. Her dad had his arm around my son, both of them smiling in matching blazers. Caption read, so grateful for the amazing father figure I get to gain through marriage. Not the father who raised me. Not my old man, Ray, who taught me to change oil and throw a curveball. Just replacement. Rebrand. Like I was a used part swapped out of the car. I kept scrolling. Another photo, this time with a caption thanking Aunt Margot for helping fund the floral designer and rehearsal dinner. Aunt Margot. The woman who once told me, straight-faced, that my job as a mechanic was honest but uninspired. She gets a thank you. I get omitted. That night I didn't sleep. Just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Thinking about all the nights I worked doubles, skipped meals, pawned my watch, Maria's anniversary gift to me, so I could send money down to Austin when he called in a panic that his car broke down. He always called when it was an emergency, and I always answered. I guess that's who I was to him, emergency support. Never celebration material. I tried to tell myself maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe Elena's parents were paying for everything and wanted it small. But even then, shouldn't he have fought for me? Spoken up. Instead, I got a line on a card that didn't even carry my name. I didn't go to work the next day, I just drove. Nowhere in particular. Just west, along Highway 6, past Waller and into Brenham, until the flatlands opened up and traffic thinned out. I parked at a gas station, bought a coffee I didn't drink, and sat on the hood of my truck staring at the sky. And that's when I remembered. 3 months ago, I'd helped him co-sign a tuition loan. Not for him, he's done with school, but for Elena. some post-grad business program she wanted to do. He'd called me on a Sunday morning, said her credit wasn't strong enough and they didn't want to ask her parents. Said it would mean the world if I helped. I didn't think twice. Of course I said yes. I remember feeling proud, like I was doing something that mattered again. That loan, still active, still pulling automatic payments from my account. I sat up straight on the hood of my truck, heart pounding, but not from anger, from clarity. He didn't forget to invite me. He erased me, and I've been paying him monthly to do it. I didn't sleep that night. The house was too quiet, like it was holding its breath with me. I made coffee around 4:30 a.m., even though I hadn't eaten dinner. I sat at the kitchen counter in the same spot I'd sat the day I opened that wedding invitation, watching the steam rise from the mug, the kind Maria used to call my thinking cup. It was chipped now, but I couldn't bring myself to throw it out. Funny how we hold on to the broken things. I pulled out the manila folder where I kept everything financial. It's one of those habits you don't shake after raising a kid solo with a second-hand calculator and a truck that always needed something. Everything I'd ever paid for him was there. From the $600 laptop I bought when he started community college, to the $800 I wired when he called from Vegas after a buddy lost their wallet and they couldn't make it back. I flipped through statements like I was reading a biography of a man who tried too hard. The tuition payments were still coming out monthly, $512.14, every 10th of the month, pulled from my account without fail. It was always supposed to be temporary until they got a little more settled. That was 8 months ago. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my texts with him. The last time he'd initiated contact, genuinely, not to ask for something, was last Father's Day. Just a photo of him holding a beer at the beach with the caption, "Hope you're having a good one, old man." We're at Santa Barbara with the in-laws. No call, no I love you, just proof of how good his other family was treating him. And yet I kept giving. That was the part that pissed me off more than anything. Not that they forgot to invite me, not even that they replaced me. It was that I let them. I let them drain me month after month, call it support, call it love, when really I was just a paycheck in a flannel shirt, someone who could be stored in the attic until they needed another favor. I made 2 calls that morning. First to my bank. I canceled the tuition autopay and requested a freeze on all linked accounts. Second, to a credit monitoring service. I'd never bothered before, but something about waking up to your own erasure makes you paranoid. Then I took a shower, long, scalding, and dressed like it was any other Friday. Drove to the shop, opened the bay doors, wiped my tools down like I hadn't just cut off my own son without warning. Because I hadn't. Not yet, that came later. The call came just after noon. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail, then came the text. Elena. Hey Ray, just saw a weird message from the Bursar's office about my tuition payment being declined. Can you call them and sort it out? No, hello. No thank you. Not even a please. I didn't answer. 10 minutes later. Seriously, this could screw up my entire semester. They said if we don't fix it by Monday, I lose my spot. Still didn't answer. And then, Ray, this really isn't okay. You said you'd help. We're counting on you. There it was. We're counting on you. Not, we love you. Not, we appreciate you. Just, you're the fallback. The system we don't have to maintain. Around 5 p.m., I locked up the shop early and went home. I reheated some leftover chili, cracked open a cold beer, and turned on the game. But I couldn't focus. My eyes kept drifting to the living room shelf where I'd put a framed photo of the 3 of us from way back, me, Maria, and Danny. It was his 5th birthday. He had frosting all over his chin, and Maria was kissing the top of his head. He was still mine back then, before the polished in-laws, the country club brunches, the wine words like accessible and floral notes. Before he was ashamed of where he came from. I reached for the remote to turn off the game, and that's when I saw the fourth text. We didn't tell my parents you're not invited yet. I figured you'd be fine with just showing up to the reception. You can sit with the vendor staff. It's outdoors. Vendor staff. He was going to hide me, like a caterer. Like someone hired to pass out shrimp cocktail and disappear when the toasts start. I stared at the screen for so long my beer went warm. And then I stood up, walked to my file cabinet, and pulled out the original tuition agreement I'd co-signed. I read every line, top to bottom, like it was a contract with the devil himself. On page 3, in the fine print, was the clause I needed. The one about parental co-signers having the right to revoke participation with sufficient notice and no legal liability after 180 days. I had the right, I had the power, and I had the motive. But I didn't act on it that night. I didn't want revenge. I wanted clarity. So I got in my truck and drove 3 hours out to the hill country, to a diner I used to go to with Maria when we were first dating. Sat in the same booth, ordered the same damn thing, chicken fried steak and black coffee, and while I sat there, watching dusk settle over the hills, a woman in a gray pantsuit came in, sat at the counter, and called someone on speakerphone. The voice on the other end was Elena, and what she said froze me in place. "Ray? Oh, please. He's just sentimental dead weight. Once we're married, Danny can cut that tuition loan off. My dad said he'd cover it if we need to refinance." I didn't breathe. I didn't blink. The woman hung up, left a 20 on the counter, and walked out. She didn't know I was there, but I knew everything I needed to. They were planning to cut me off. I just beat them to it. It's strange how humiliation doesn't always come loud. Sometimes it shows up folded in half, printed in calligraphy, tucked neatly inside a white envelope with a wax seal. The day of the wedding came faster than I thought it would. I didn't plan on going. Hell, I'd already decided weeks ago that I wouldn't give them that satisfaction. But that morning, I woke up before sunrise. Couldn't sit still. The air felt off, like something unfinished was buzzing around in the quiet. I put on my best jeans, the ironed kind I saved for Sunday Mass back when Maria was still alive. Threw on a button-down, shaved, looked in the mirror and didn't really recognize myself. I wasn't going for them. I guess I just needed to see it with my own eyes. Needed it to be real. I didn't drive to the main venue. That would have been too obvious, too confrontational. Instead, I parked across the road from the vineyard, under a pecan tree, where you could just make out the sound of violin music and champagne flutes clinking. I sat on the hood of my truck and watched. Everyone looked like they belonged in a catalog. Women in those dusty rose dresses that all bridal parties wear now. Men with tailored suits, not a stain or wrinkle in sight. I saw her dad shaking hands, holding court like he was the one marrying his daughter off. And then I saw Danny, my son. He stepped out from the main house looking like a model, new haircut, fresh tan, that same smug little smile he wore when he used to get away with skipping homework. He looked proud, polished, comfortable, like I was never a part of his life. That was the first time it hit me. He wasn't ashamed of me. He just didn't think of me at all. At some point, they brought out the photographer. People laughed, toasted. They posed by the stone arch with the vineyard in the background. I saw Aunt Margot take her spot next to Danny and Elena. I didn't see my face anywhere. I probably would have stayed there all afternoon if it weren't for the sound of a woman crying. It was coming from the side of the vineyard, near the staff trailers. Quiet, muffled, but raw. I walked toward it, figuring someone got overwhelmed or maybe passed out from the heat. But when I turned the corner, I stopped dead in my tracks. It was Helen, my ex-wife, sitting on a plastic chair next to a dumpster, sobbing into her hands. Now, me and Helen, we got our history. It wasn't good by the end, but we raised Danny together. She was never cruel, never dramatic. Seeing her like that twisted something in my gut. She didn't see me at first. She was mumbling to herself, saying something about Elena's parents, how this wasn't supposed to happen, how they promised me I'd be seated with family. When she finally looked up, her eyes went wide. "Ray," she whispered, wiping her face with her sleeve. "What the hell happened?" I asked. She shook her head. They moved my seat, said they needed the room for priority family and that I could sit with catering staff at the back patio. I stared at her, stunned. "You're the mother of the groom." She laughed bitterly. Apparently not photogenic enough for the front rows. We sat there for a while, just breathing. Neither of us said what we were both thinking, that we gave our lives for a boy who now treated us like background noise. Then she pulled something from her purse, a small envelope, crumpled at the edges. She handed it to me without a word. Inside was a folded piece of notebook paper, not even typed, not even sealed. It was from Danny. "Thanks for everything. We decided to keep things simple. Hope you understand. Love you always." I didn't feel anger. I felt insulted, the kind that comes with being downgraded from father to inconvenience. I stood up. My hands were shaking, but not from sadness, from decision. "Come on," I said. "Where?" she asked. "Home. This place doesn't deserve you." I helped her to her feet and we walked back to my truck. We didn't say much. She held the letter the whole way. I drove slow, past the guests still arriving, past the valet who barely noticed us, past the life we apparently no longer fit into. When I got home, I opened the fridge, grabbed 2 bottles of beer, handed one to her. She took it silently. Then she looked at me, tears drying on her cheeks. "Ray, you look different." I smiled for the first time in weeks. "I feel different." And I did, because that was the moment I realized I didn't want to be part of his story anymore. Not if I had to beg for a role in it. But life has a funny way of testing you right when you start to let go. Because right then, as I reached for the remote to put on some background music, my phone buzzed with a notification from the loan app. Payment successfully reinstated by cosigner 2. My hand went cold. I checked the app again. Sure enough, there it was. A new auto debit scheduled. From my account. I never authorized it, but someone had. I scrolled through the logs and there it was. Danny had used my saved credentials. He put the payments back without asking. He stole from me, and that was the last line he'd ever cross. I didn't say a word to Helen. She was sitting on my couch, flipping through old photo albums I hadn't touched in years. I'd offered to drive her home after the wedding mess, but she said she needed a minute before going back to that empty house full of ghosts. So I let her be. Meanwhile, I was standing in the kitchen, phone in my hand, trying to convince myself I hadn't just seen what I saw. But the numbers didn't lie. The tuition loan I canceled weeks ago, it was back. Same auto draft, same bank, same monthly date. The only difference was the user log, cosigner 2. My son. Danny had accessed my account. Somehow he'd found my old login, probably saved on one of the shared laptops from when he was in grad school, and reinstated the payment without saying a damn word. Without permission, without even pretending to ask. He didn't just use me. He stole from me. And the worst part? He probably didn't think it was theft. Probably thought it was owed that I was just resuming my role, the background donor, the walking ATM, the fool who couldn't say no. I walked out to the back porch, needed air, needed distance, needed something cold to keep from punching through drywall. The wind was sharp, still smelled like the scorched pecan leaves from last week's storm. I stood there, watching the sun go down behind my neighbor's shed, and something in me just snapped clean. It wasn't rage. Rage is loud, sloppy. This was colder, precise, like the click of a wrench locking onto a bolt that stripped you too many times. I went inside, grabbed the file from the cabinet in the hallway, the one with all the loan documents, signed agreements, financial statements, the paper trail of my own gullibility. I laid it all out on the kitchen table, one page at a time, like evidence in a case I was finally ready to prosecute. Every check I wrote, every transfer I made, every text that started with, "Hey Dad, sorry to ask, but..." I even printed out the screenshot of the notification from the loan app. Payment reinstated. Date, time, IP address. There was no question. This was deliberate. Helen glanced up from the couch, saw the papers, and said, "What are you doing?" "Cleaning house," I said. She didn't ask more. She just nodded. I sat down and opened my laptop. I wasn't new to this. I may have worked with my hands my whole life, but I know how money moves. I've had to fight through enough red tape to save my business more than once. People think small-town mechanics are dumb. What they don't see is the accounting we have to do to survive when half our customers want a payment plan and the other half bring coupons printed in 2004. I pulled up the loan account. I changed every security setting. Kicked out cosigner 2, froze the payment source, set a notification for any access attempt. Then I contacted the loan servicer and reported fraudulent activity on the account, locked it under a security PIN. And then I did something I never thought I'd do. I reported my own son to the fraud unit. No one at the other end asked questions. They just read me the script, asked if I had documentation, and gave me a case number. I gave them the screenshots, the login trail, even a PDF of the wedding invite where my name was missing. "For context," I said. The rep didn't respond, just kept typing. When it was done, I closed the laptop and sat still. My hands were calm. Helen was watching me now. "You really did it," she said quietly. I nodded. "You okay?" I thought about that for a second. Number. But I will be. She gave a sad smile, then stood up, grabbed her purse and walked to the door. Before leaving, she turned and said, "For what it's worth, Ray, I should have stood up for you more when he was little." I let him think money came from nowhere. That one landed like a sucker punch. I didn't answer. After she left, I poured myself a glass of whiskey. The good stuff. Maria's favorite bottle, still unopened after 8 years. I drank it slow, staring at the loan folder on the table. The doorbell rang. I figured it was Helen coming back to grab something she forgot. But it wasn't. It was Danny. Standing there in a black hoodie, wedding still on his skin, tie half undone, eyes bloodshot, voice tight. "Why did you do it?" I didn't move. "Do what?" He shoved his phone toward my face. "The loan. You reported me? You broke into my account. I didn't break in. It was saved from... You stole from me, Danny." His face twisted, like he couldn't even process that word. "You're my dad. You're supposed to help." I laughed, bitter. "Help? You mean pay silently? Jesus, you're so dramatic. You said you'd support us until Elena finished school. I said that before you sat me next to the garbage at your wedding." He opened his mouth, but no words came. I stepped outside, made him back up, and shut the door behind me. The night was heavy with humidity. The cicadas were screaming. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "You erased me, Danny. That was your choice. Now, I'm just following your lead." He blinked. Something in his face broke, finally. But then came the twist I didn't see coming. He said, "Elena's pregnant." I stared. "You're gonna be a grandfather," he said. "And if you go through with this fraud case, you'll never meet the baby." I didn't flinch. I just looked at him and said, "Then I guess that baby will grow up the same way you did." Danny stood on my porch after dropping that bomb. Elena's pregnant. As if it were a trump card, like I'd crumble, like I'd say, "All right, forget the fraud, forget the disrespect, here's my checkbook and a teddy bear." But I didn't flinch. He waited for something, maybe regret, maybe guilt. What he got was silence. Heavy, intentional silence. "I'm serious, Dad," he said, his voice softer now, almost pleading. "Don't do this to the baby. They didn't ask for this." "No," I said quietly, but neither did I. He opened his mouth again, but I turned and went inside. Closed the door on him for the second and last time. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the floor of the den with a cup of black coffee and a stack of old photos. Maria holding Danny when he was a baby. Danny covered in grease, helping me rebuild a carburetor when he was 12. A crayon drawing he made that said, "My hero is my dad," with 2 stick figures holding wrenches. People don't vanish overnight. They vanish inch by inch. Respect goes first, then trust, then memories, until all that's left is obligation dressed up like love. The next day, I followed through. I pressed charges. I submitted the full report to the district attorney's office. Fraudulent access to financial accounts, unauthorized transactions, misuse of personal data. I didn't need to embellish anything. The facts spoke loud enough. They didn't cuff him on the spot or anything. That's not how white-collar crime works, but he got served 2 weeks later. Mail came certified, signed by his own hand. I know because I got a copy through the lawyer I hired. I kept it folded in the same file with everything else, like the final piece in a puzzle I never wanted to build. Elena's parents found out not long after. Word got around fast in their country club circles. The whispers about that young man who stole from his father turned into icy glares at board meetings, rescinded invitations to charity galas, and the loss of 2 business clients, both of whom quietly dropped Elena's father's name from their Christmas party guest list. Their family's reputation, the one they clung to like it could buy their way out of decency, took a hit. Meanwhile, Danny showed up once more. This time, he didn't yell, he didn't beg, he cried. Right there, on my porch again, crouched like a kid who got benched from the team and didn't know how to walk home. "Dad, please," he said through tears. "I messed up. I was scared. Elena's family, they pressured me. I didn't know what else to do." "You knew how to lie," I said. "You knew how to cut me out of your life when it was convenient. You knew how to press submit on that payment without asking me. What you didn't know how to do was pick up the phone and say, 'Dad, I'm sorry.'" He looked up at me, broken. For a moment, I saw the kid I raised, the boy who used to fall asleep on the couch with his head in my lap during Sunday football. And then I remembered the wedding, the vendor's staff seat, the way he looked right past me like I wasn't even there. Some mistakes you can forgive, some you just learn from. "I'm not dropping the charges, Danny," I said, voice steady. "This isn't revenge. It's consequence." He stood slowly, nodded once, and left. The trial didn't go to court. It never does with cases like this. He took a plea deal, paid a fine, got probation, had to attend mandatory financial ethics classes. His job let him go quietly 6 weeks later. Elena filed for separation after their daughter was born. I never met the baby, not once. I probably never will. And that's something I've learned to carry. Not with bitterness, just quiet. I moved out of my old place this spring. Bought a little fixer-upper near Lake Travis with the money I used to send to his tuition. New porch, new windows, a coffee machine that makes the real espresso stuff Maria used to love. My days are simple now. Oil changes in the morning, poker nights with the guys on Thursdays, breakfast with Helen every other Sunday. We're not together again, not really, just older, kinder, and freer. I'm not angry anymore, I'm not even hurt, I'm just done, pretending that love means letting people walk all over you and calling it support. The truth is, Danny didn't steal from me because he needed to. He stole from me because he believed I wouldn't stop him. And I did. I stopped him. And I stopped that version of myself too, the one who would have stayed quiet, swallowed it all down, and called it loyalty. I don't owe anyone silence. Not when I gave them everything, and they spit on the hand that held them. If you've read this far, and you've been through something similar, someone close taking advantage of your love, then you know. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is walk away and never look back. No guilt, no rage, just the peace of knowing you finally chose yourself. If this story reminded you of something in your own life, I'd be honored to hear about it in the comments. And if you want to stick around for more stories like this one, go ahead and subscribe. But only if you're ready to stop apologizing for standing up for yourself. Thanks for listening.